Today I'm going to talk about the controversial subject of speaker cables. This is not quite as controversial as mains cables, but it certainly causes controversy. I'm going to use a quote from the late great Richard Feynman, who said, "Those who think they understand quantum mechanics don't understand quantum mechanics." Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and explain the quantum mechanical effects going on in silver or copper cable and how the electrons all line up. No. What I'm going to talk about and try and offer is some advice. So, I keep nearly all of my old cables, so when I upgrade them I tend to keep the old ones in case I need them in a second setup, or if a friend of mine's desperate for some cables I might have some. So one of my old cables was QED X-Tube XT40 OFC Air Core speaker cable, properly terminated with the banana plugs, and that upgraded from pretty standard bell wire a few years ago, many years ago actually. I then used cord, I've used more QED, I've tried silver cables, loads of different cables, but I kept these because they were nice, equal, neat lengths, and they were properly terminated with QED banana plugs, so they were quite neat, handy. The next cable I kept was my Rocket 22, and this is not the bi-wire cable that I normally use, but this is Rocket 22, all terminated up. And more recently, this, which is Townshend Isolda loudspeaker cable. Now, the reason I'm going to talk today and try and offer some advice rather than some kind of scientific experiment with an oscilloscope and various other things to try and prove the difference, because even when that's been done somebody's debunked the experiment or complained or it's caused controversy. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is explain the differences between these cables. So starting with this QED stuff, this airlock banana plugs, it's not hellishly expensive. When I changed this to Rocket 22, I noticed that there was a little bit better low frequency. It sounded to me like the bass was more solid. And I enjoyed that. I thought it was great. I could detect there was a difference. But this is important. If you add the price of this, and then the price of this, and then the price of my bi-wire Rocket 22, I am actually pretty much getting close to the cost of this Townshend Isolda loudspeaker cable. Now, this Townshend stuff is cryogenically treated, loads of scientific stuff behind it. It's very handy that it's flat. Now, I wouldn't mount it under a carpet, but you could, which is a nice little benefit. It is expensive, but this stuff categorically sounds better than either of these two. And like I said, if you factor in the cost of continually tiny little incremental differences between these loudspeaker cables, I could have bought this. Now, if we add the price of this to the price of the other cables that I've already bought, I could have bought even higher end stuff. The point I'm trying to make is don't faff around with the really cheap stuff. You know, everything is built and made to a price. This stuff is really well made. It's very decent stuff. It comes in brilliant packaging. It's not marketed heavily. You know, it came to my attention after I bought the Townshend Super Tweeters. Townshend speaker cable was not on my radar. I just bought the Rocket 22. But I'm going to openly admit that plugging this cable in has made an enormous and quite significant improvement to the overall clarity of any of my loudspeakers. So recently I've been doing pretty stringent A/B tests between Harbeth and Spendor. I've been playing about with passive preamplifiers. I've been playing about with different DACs. And what I wanted was a cable to use as my reference that I wanted as best as I could afford, and it was this. And yes, it is quite expensive, but I so regret buying all of this stuff. I should have just gone for the better stuff straight away. Now, I'm not telling everybody to go out there and buy £2,000 or £3,000 loudspeaker cable. I'm just suggesting that you can buy as much as you can afford once. Because if you bought a £250 cable and then buy later on a £450 cable, you'd have been better off saving and buying the more expensive one straight away. I know we all like to see little incremental differences, but I tell you, from me, there's no way I'm going to upgrade from this. A, because I can't afford it, and B, to get a noticeable improvement over this Townshend cable is going to cost me a fortune. So I'm kind of done now. And I think that's the only point I'm trying to make in this video, that wasting money on a 50, then £100, then £150, then a £250 cable, yes, you may notice little incremental improvements, but you'd have been better off saving and buying the best cable you want to buy once. That's how I see it. That's been my experience, that I'm never going to be able to upgrade from this. A, because I can't afford it, and B, I think the differences become smaller the further you go up. That at the end of the day, if I bought better cable than this, I would probably need a more revealing, more detailed, higher end, more expensive system, more expensive loudspeakers to even notice that. So at my level, with the equipment that I have, this is as high as I need to go. That's all I'm going to say on the matter, to be honest with you. I'm not going to offer any kind of scientific reasoning, rationale. We could talk about how electrons pass through atoms and blah, 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 blah. But in my experience, by going through these cables, there have been incremental differences and they've been beneficial. But this is more of a money-saving exercise. So like I said, don't go out and buy the most expensive cable on the market, but go and buy the best one that you can afford, because do it once, do it right, and be done. You'll never have it in the back of your mind, what if I bought the Rocket 44? Would that be a little bit better? Well, it might be, but you've already bought the 22. That's it. That's just my weird roundabout money saving idea. Because in my experience, I'm done with cables. It's final. I'm not going to be able to go any higher than that Townshend Isolda loudspeaker cable. I hope you've enjoyed that. Might be controversial, might sound arrogant, people might not like what I've said, but I'm only illustrating what I think, that I'm done with cables. It's as high as I need to go, and I'm very pleased with how everything sounds now. Take care, guys. I'll catch up with you soon.